One last gasp for Edmonton. Bouchard's pass didn't click with Draisaitl. 12 seconds to go. Florida trying to end it up against the wall, which would be fitting. 3 seconds to go. The Florida Panthers have won the Stanley Cup. For the first time in their 30-year history, the Florida Panthers are Stanley Cup champions. They made it about as hard on themselves as they possibly could, battling a valiant Edmonton team that had rallied from adversity all season long. And Paul Maurice, coaching lifer, 30 years in the National Hockey League, has his Stanley Cup.
What the puck is going on?
This is What the Puck is Going On for Monday, December the 9th, 2024. Here's your host, Dave Metzger.
Steve, how are you this evening?
Good, Dave. What's up, man?
Oh, not much, man. We got another small slate here for this Monday, but that's okay. We'll break into it, see what we can find, talk a little futures, because I think we've got some teams popping up of interest. At least I know we had a conversation the other day, and I think there's definitely some angles in the futures market right now. Then we'll touch base on a couple games of interest, but figure short and sweet tonight. That's just kind of how it crumbles when you get a 3-game slate. All right, Steve, we'll jump into the standings here, and then I'll get your take on it. We'll start in the Atlantic. Florida Panthers leading that division, 36 points. Toronto in second with 34. And Boston, a little bit of a resurgence there with 33. There's your top 3, followed by Tampa, Ottawa, Buffalo, Detroit, and bringing up the rear, the Montreal Canadiens. So, Steve, what we've seen in the Atlantic from week to week, what's your take there? Any surprises?
No surprises, but it looks like things are starting to kind of trend where the top half of the division here with the good teams, the ones you just talked about, Tampa, Boston, Toronto, and Florida, they're doing well. They're having some win streaks here. Now, Toronto's lost a couple in a row, but they're 7-3 in their last 10. But the Panthers seem to right the ship after a little bit of a slump. Boston, after the slow start for them, they've kind of made their way here. And Tampa Bay kind of quietly being consistent here. 14-9-2 overall. Winners of 2 in a row, 6-3-1 in their last 10. And then the bottom half here with Ottawa, Buffalo, Detroit, and Montreal. These teams are starting to flail in a bad way. Ottawa's 4-6, including overtime in their last 10. Buffalo now 3-7 in their last 10. Just when we thought they might be getting hot or having a chance to right themselves. Detroit's, they lost 5 in a row. Buffalo they have lost 6 in a row. And then Montreal is just Montreal. And really bad on the road are the Canadiens. So really just the separation of the good and the bad really is starting to be a little bit more obvious about who the good teams are in this division and who the bad ones are.
Yeah, Steve, that's absolutely right. It's funny if you look at the top 4 here. You have winners of 2, 2, and 4 in a row. With the exception of Toronto that you touched on losing their last 2. But then you look at the bottom, and you have losers of Ottawa last game out, Buffalo as you mentioned 6, Detroit 5. and Montreal won. And that just kind of tells you the story here in this conference. I mean, it really could be a 4-pony race here, and we're only about a quarter of the way in. So maybe those bottom four, again, Ottawa, Buffalo, Detroit, and Montreal, can be teams to pick on. And I actually did take a play in that game. We'll touch on it when we get there. Let's jump into the Metro. We have the Washington Capitals leading that division, 40 points, Steve. New Jersey with 38. Carolina in third with 35. So there's your top three there. And then it's the Rangers, Islanders, Philly, Pittsburgh, and Columbus bringing up the rear with 27. So, you jump from 35 to 29 with the top three and the bottom two here that would be fighting for the wild card. Steve, here in the Metro with these trends, any surprises here?
I mean, mainly the Rangers. I mean, so what is the mindset of the Rangers? They trade away their captain to Anaheim. So that's interesting. You never see teams trading their captain away, right? And the same day,
right,
they ink Shesterkin to a long-term deal, probably just to kind of calm the feathers. But there has to be more behind the scenes there. I wonder what's going on. I wonder if Tortorella's losing it or whatever. With the players, just 3-7 in their last 10. They're just not living up to the bill here. I mean, that Madison Square Garden, they're 7-6-1, 7-5 on the road. This is not the Rangers team we've been kind of expecting to see. Kind of almost like an Edmonton type of start here the last few years. Kind of thinking maybe at some point the ship will get right for them. And obviously, it's a long season. You don't want to play your best hockey necessarily until the playoffs. And, we've seen Edmonton, with the slow starts and then, being better in the playoffs. Last year, making a Stanley Cup. You just wonder if that's the path the Rangers are kind of on here. But, yeah, that is a surprise to me that they've just been so poor here and just not a good bet at all. Losing, bad games, not scoring goals. I mean, they've only scored 85 goals. They've given up 79, which is actually pretty decent comparatively to everybody else. But they're not scoring at all. And just 85 goals is right kind of just mediocre for the most part for them. But the Rangers are the big surprise to me right there in that division. On the bad side, the good side, though, sorry, Dave, but on the good side, I mean, you have the Islanders still with all the injuries, still finding ways to win a little bit or at least hang in there and play 500. And on the bottom, it looks like Pittsburgh and Columbus both kind of have who both have been bad. Getting Columbus here for a little bit longer than Pittsburgh, or just for over a season or so, we'll say. Because Columbus was a good playoff team here just as recently as a couple years ago. Pittsburgh, a playoff team in recent years as well. But it looks like they're at least on a decent path now. Can they hold it together? We shall see.
Right. Yeah, Steve. If New York Rangers they don't get their act together, they're going to get jumped by the New York Islanders there for that wild card spot. And we just mentioned that, like you said, there's a long way to go still, about a quarter of the way through. But yeah, you're right. You got to wonder. The Rangers are looking to really shake up that lineup. So they, it's being said that they have all kinds of players available for trade talks, and they're really trying to shake this thing up. So. That could be maybe a bit of a distraction there in New York, so we'll have to keep an eye on that.
Right.
Western Conference, we'll start in the Central. Here's Minnesota still leading this division with 40 points. They're actually tied with Winnipeg for the second spot. Both teams 40 points, and then Dallas, your third place team with 34, so a little bit of a gap there. Your top three being Minnesota, Winnipeg, Dallas. followed by Colorado with 32 points, Utah, Seattle, Nashville, then Chicago bringing up the rear. What a train wreck that is. Man, we say it seems like we say it every week. But Steve, what do you think here in the Central? Like I mentioned, about a 6-point gap here between 2 and 3. Do you see this maybe being Minnesota and Winnipeg race down the stretch?
I think Dallas will hang in there just by proxy. You got to imagine Colorado will too once they get healthy. Those 4 teams, again, should be playoff teams here at the end of the day. Winnipeg, you worry about a little bit just because they've leveled off here. 4-6 in their last 10. I know we both had them against the Blackhawks on Saturday, and they were losing, at least the first half of the game before they were able to kind of tie it up and then right the ship there in the third period and get an empty netter to cover the puck line. You got to imagine that this is another division where it's like you said, the 4-pony race here. You want to kind of try to believe that Utah can hang in there. I'm just not so sure that they can. St. Louis as well. Both of those teams are 500 in their last 10. And then Nashville, where we wanted to give them a chance. You can just about write them off at this point. They're 20 points behind. They've lost 7 games in a row. And that is even worse than Chicago, who's lost 5 in a row. But they do lead the Blackhawks by 2 points. I think these 4 teams that we mentioned at the top will hang in there towards the end here. You got to imagine Minnesota will level off a little bit. Dallas, they get Seguin back, and that's another story as well. We'll go through the injuries in a minute. But you got to imagine those 4 teams you mentioned at the top will hang in there and be in the playoffs.
Right. Yeah, that's that's what we think anyway, and that's kind of what it should be. So I definitely agree with you there. Now we're going to get into the Pacific, and we've got all kinds of separation going on here, Steve, from the top, the middle, to the bottom. Vegas is in first place in that division right now with 39 points. Then LA with 35 points. Vancouver with 32 points. There's your top 3. Edmonton with 32 as well. Calgary with 31. Seattle with 29. Then it goes to San Jose with 25 and Anaheim with 23. So from top to bottom, there's definitely some different numbers going on. And this could be exactly what, we said about the Central and the Atlantic. There's really only 4 teams here that I see that have a legitimate shot, kind of at this point right now with what we've been seeing. So, Steve, what do you make of this kind of messy Pacific here?
Again, but at the end of the day, this probably is your most competitive division. Although you're starting to see it now with San Jose and Anaheim. That's to be expected. But for them to really start to drop off here at this point in the season, you're wondering if Seattle is going to join them. We're thinking maybe Seattle can rebound after the poor season last year, a year after being in the playoffs. They just haven't done much. But they're right. They're still 10 points out. It's not like they're getting blown out by like 20 points like Nashville. They're still within at least a long arm's reach of the teams at the top, and even the team in second with the Kings at 35 points. Really, that's just 3 games ahead of them. Now, they have played more games than the teams above them, Seattle. So that's a concern. If they make up games with everyone above them, they gain ground at the end of the day. But it's a tough division. Now, Edmonton, they're climbing slowly, creeping up, 6-3-1 in their last 10. Vancouver, you're wondering how legit they just kind of are at the end of the day. And you mentioned it this weekend when we were watching football. The Kings, this is a team that we can't sleep on at the end of the day. This is a team, they've won 5 in a row here, and they trail Vegas by 4 points now? That's just how impressive Vegas has been. They've been remarkable at home, 11-3 for Vegas at home. The same with the Kings, 10-2-1. But the Kings are definitely a team to watch out for, and a team you'll get a good number on, I'm sure, when we look at the futures.
Oh, absolutely, Steve. There's going to be some interesting matchups I think we can pair together, at least to have a little bit of fun with.
Right. Like, who's going to have a Kings Capitals ticket?
That's
right?
Exactly what I was thinking.
And that's going to be a big payday if that can somehow happen here at the end of the day.
Oh, absolutely. All right. So as I mentioned, 3 games tonight. I've got the book open and ready to rock.
Do you want me to hit the injuries real quick?
You want to go through the injuries?
Yeah. Let's go through the real quick. And this will be kind of new and fresh to me. Anaheim, 4 players hurt. Pasternak is day-to-day for the Bruins, so that's one to consider for them. Keep an eye out for when he'll be back. Buffalo, relatively healthy. Calgary, relatively healthy. Carolina is healthy. Chicago, relatively healthy, although Mrazek is hurt. For them, Colorado is a banged up team. I mean, Landeskog is always on this injury report. I feel like Jonathan Drouin is on there as well. Columbus, they're not in too bad of a shape. We mentioned Seguin out for Dallas. I mean, he's going to be out until April now, so they'll hope to get him back for the playoffs. Detroit, just a pair of injuries. Edmonton, just a pair. Evander Kane is the long-term injury on that list still. The Kings healthy, Minnesota healthy, Montreal healthy. Carey Price is done for the season. Nashville, relatively healthy. They do have O'Reilly and Carrier hurt for them. Jake Allen is down day to day for New Jersey. The Islanders, again, they need to get guys back like Barzell and Anthony Duclair. They could have them back some point soon. Ottawa's relatively healthy. Philadelphia is healthy. The Penguins are healthy. San Jose's bordering on a pretty banged up unit right now. So that could hurt them. You might start to see that's a team will really start to rely on their AHL players if they're really banged up. So that makes them easy pickings, to be honest, if that's the case. Seattle and St. Louis relatively healthy. Anthony Cirelli is on the injury report day to day for Tampa Bay. Toronto is your most bagged up team that I can see right now. We got 7 players listed. Amongst them is Max Domi. We should have him back, though, at some point. All the good news for Toronto is most of their players should be back relatively soon. Utah is relatively healthy. Vancouver is in good shape. Vegas in good shape. And Washington, Tom Wilson took that puck to the face, that swollen jaw by his teammate. I think Chychrun hit him, didn't he, with the puck?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, so we'll see when we get Tom Wilson back. And I'm not sure the latest Ovechkin update. You might have something on that. But maybe we'll see him sooner than later. And Winnipeg is healthy as well. So really, Toronto is your most bagged up team. Colorado is second.
All right. Well, that is definitely good to know there, Steve. And yes, Alex Ovechkin is taking longer skates now. He's not, he's not practicing with pucks or anything. And, he's usually out there skating before the team gets on for practice. But it's definitely encouraging to see, he's trying to get kind of longer, more meaningful skates in to try and get conditioned back from that injury. So hopefully, somewhere around the new year, if everything goes well, we could see him back. All right, so let's get into the slate here, Steve. We'll jump right into it. Chicago is heading to New York to take on the Rangers tonight. -1.5 for the Rangers. Your over/under is going to be 6, -265 money line. Might we get a goaltenders matchup here? It's going to be Soderblom and Shesterkin. So Shesterkin for the Rangers, Soderblom for the Blackhawks. I'm not sure how well that's going to fare there with them. Steve, I have a couple things here. Maybe just one thing. I took the Rangers, in a small little thing on the 60-minute line, and that's really all I could see here. It was minus 145. Again, and the whole slate might be like this this evening, but really, Steve, I don't see a plethora of great plays here. What are you thinking with the Blackhawks and the Rangers?
I mean, so just looking at the goalie saves, Shesterkin's at 24.5. So what does that say about Chicago being able to put the puck on the net? Not much,
Right.
to be honest, because you never see it that low. So you got to favor New York here, but man, they're just so not trustable at this point. On a short slate on the Monday night, I think you had the best play with the 60-minute line. I wouldn't try to cover a puck and a half here, just because they've been so limited on offense here. But you got to figure the Rangers win this game, just because that's how bad Chicago really is at this point. As bad as Chicago is, the Rangers are not Chicago. So you got to favor them at home, and think that they can get right here a little bit. And just what the Rangers need, just what the doctor ordered is bring the Blackhawks to town. Let's get a win.
Right. It would seem absolutely that way. So we'll see if they can take advantage of that this evening. Next game up, Steve, Detroit taking on the Buffalo Sabres. This one's in Buffalo. Minus 1.5 for the Sabres. That's a pretty nice number. I don't know if that's if we can jump on that, but your over-under is 6. Minus 125 for the Sabres on the money line. Plus 105. Your goaltender matchup in this one is going to be Husso for the Red Wings and James Reimer here for the Buffalo Sabres. Steve, I straight up took Buffalo here on the money line, minus 125. I think the home ice advantage is kind of my train of thought here. Where we thought the Red Wings might be somewhat trustworthy, they just haven't showed us that at all. Next minute they're scoring goals, the next they're not. They're winning a game, and then they're getting their doors blown off. So, not really much to trust here. But I think your best play here is going to be the Buffalo money line.
Either way you dice it, both of these teams have lost 11 in a row combined. Very similar in their game specs here. Buffalo, they've allowed 86 goals on the season. Detroit's allowed 83. Buffalo, the slightly better scoring team, scoring 80. Detroit, they've scored only 67. So they're amongst the worst in putting the goal into the net here. I mean, there's only a handful of teams who are worse than them, and that's, teams like Nashville, even Chicago only has one less goal scored than Detroit. So I think you have the right side here with Buffalo at home, but they're spiraling in a downward bad way themselves. Maybe this is just what the doctor ordered for them, is to bring Detroit into town. But yes, both of these teams worthy of our penalty box. It's going to be kind of hard to throw them in the penalty box together when one of them will probably come away with a win. How about this, Dave? I'm not sure what overtime is paying, but maybe this is the good old overtime play here.
Well, we can certainly take a look at that. If it's going to be plus 310.
Yeah.
I could absolutely see overtime in this one.
Yeah,
That's a pretty good play.
And,
nice number.
And I'd be skeptical of an over here. I want to trust these teams to be able to score a lot here. This could easily be a 2-2 game here in the third period.
I agree, Steve. That's a good way to find something.
In fact, I think you could almost play all the unders here, Dave, across the board.
Oh, absolutely. Because here it is with our last game of the night, and it doesn't get much better. It's the Anaheim Ducks traveling to Montreal to take on the Canadiens. Minus 1.5 for the Canadiens on the puck line. Your over-under, again, is 6. minus 162 on the money line for the Canadians, plus 136 for the Ducks. Your goaltender matchup here, we only have Sam Montembeault listed, and that's going to be for the Canadians. Steve, I don't know. I think if you have to play something here, just kind of something seems funny in this game. I wouldn't be scared to maybe take a Ducks money line at plus 136 with receiving, the New York captain there. He's going to shore things up there on the back end there with Racco Gudis, and that's going to be a heavy pair to play against. So we'll see if that works out for him. Again, not a very attractive game, but if I'm going to play something here, I'm going to actually go against the grain with the Ducks on the money line.
The good thing about the Ducks is they don't allow goals. That's the one thing that they have going for them, is that they are a dead under team here as far as allowing goals. They've only allowed 76, but they can't score either. I mean, they've only scored 62. That is as bad as it gets, talking about bad teams not being able to put the puck in the net here. I mean, that is right now compared to Washington. I mean, that's 47 goals less than what the Capitals have scored here on the season. But they're very stingy, like you said, Dave. They're on that back end. That can only help a little bit more, too, as well. It's not like Montreal scores a lot of goals either. That's why I kind of favor the under. But maybe the Ducks can get some offense tonight. The Canadians do allow a ton of goals. They've allowed 98 on the season.
Right. Yep. So, I mean, just, kind of a messy game here. And I think you're probably under of the night is a pretty good call. I could definitely see it.
If there's anything else to say about Anaheim, too, they're 5-3-2 on the road. So not the worst.
Yeah, so not bad. Well, not great, but it ain't the worst.
They're much worse at home. Much worse at home for some reason.
All right, let's take a look at the futures. We'll do the penalty box, a goal scorer, and then that'll do it for us on a short slate here.
Yeah, well, we can talk a little bit about the games tomorrow night too, if you want.
Games of interest for tomorrow.
You want to go through that right now? Actually, let me go through the list. Let's see what we have for tomorrow night.
Yeah.
So tomorrow night we'll have a bad Sharks team in Carolina. Carolina's a huge favorite in that already. Minus 490 is the price there. We'll have a good game with Toronto and New Jersey. So a pivotal Eastern Conference matchup. Nice, interesting game with Colorado at Pittsburgh as well. Colorado, the early favorite there, minus 170. Good matchup with two teams trying to fight out of the bottom in a tough division, Columbus and the Flyers. Columbus is a slight favorite at home. The Islanders and the Kings. The Kings will be road warriors here again. Let's see if they can get a win against the Islanders. The Flames will be in Nashville. Boston and Winnipeg is a good matchup at Winnipeg. Tampa Bay at Edmonton is another great matchup. This is the Monday night slate. We need to talk about this some more. Minnesota and Utah, good game there. Florida is at Seattle and St. Louis at Vancouver. So some good games there, Dave. Anything really stick out to you?
Yeah, there's a couple games that are pretty appetizing here, or at least much better than the Monday night slate. I really like this Kings Islanders game, minus 122 for the Kings. LA will get a nice plus 125 for the 60-minute line. Again, the two teams that are under teams at the moment. Well, at least the Kings can make you play that way with their defense. They can score, but most of the time their defense is the one carrying that. So I love that game. I might check out a bit of that. I think there's some good possibilities with the Kings. The Avalanche and Penguins, that could soar over. You might even could play maybe 7.5 in that game. I could definitely see some goals there. Toronto and New Jersey.
I like that game.
One should be a good one.
Yeah, I could see that as an over game. With Toronto and the Devils.
Be a bit of a shootout.
Yep. And a good amount of goals. I mean, that could be a 4-4 game in the third, to me. You have some tight matchups. Like Columbus and Philadelphia is not an easy game to handicap.
No, it's not.
I'm shocked the Flames are an underdog at Nashville. Is Nashville worthy of being a favorite to anyone right now?
Not even a little
and
bit.
You're getting plus.
Well, Calgary is sliding as well.
Yeah, I mean, Calgary has their own issues. Yep. I mean, 3-7-4 on the road, 4-4-2, losers in their last 10, losers of 2 in a row. But you still got to think that they're a little bit better than Nashville overall. So that's interesting. I could see a lower scoring game in that Boston Jets game, and maybe another game with potential fireworks if the Edmonton Oilers can put the pressure on Vasilevsky there. Maybe we get a lot of goals with Tampa and Edmonton.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that same thing. Tampa and Edmonton could be a game where you see some fireworks as well. There's a couple opportunities for some overs tomorrow. It definitely looks.
And I would trust Florida at Seattle as well. I think that's a favorite you could rely on there.
Absolutely. I like the Minnesota game too. I like them to get that done on the road versus Utah. You got to think that, they're a little bit more upper class.
Yeah, refined. Yes, Utah. I agree.
So definitely some interesting stuff. We might have to, build a couple things for tomorrow. That's a pretty decent slate there anyway.
Yes, very good slate.
All right, let's look at these futures. So let's go into the conference here. We'll go with the top 6. Florida Panthers, 4-1. Hurricanes, 4-1. Rangers, somehow, 5-1. I'm not so sure about that one. Plus 550 for the Maple Leafs. The Devils, 7-1, and then there's Tampa, 9-1. And you notice that the Capitals are actually the top of the league right now. They're tied, with, I think 2 teams with 40 points. But if you look at the standings, they're slated on top. Steve, they're still getting 16-1. There's just not much respect, it seems, coming their way, and I'm not quite sure why. But what do you like here in the East?
I like the Capitals. I think you got to grab that number while it's there, and play them against a couple of the teams in the West, and maybe you get lucky. Even a Capitals and Wild ticket right now is paying $10 to win $1,790. All right, so that's not a terrible investment. You can still put them with the Jets and get the same payout type of payout. And even the Kings, much higher payout. You can get almost $3,000 right now on the Kings and the Capitals if you play.
Yeah, I really like that one.
So I think, and not to be a homer, but I think this is the time still where you got to grab the Capitals. They're going to be in the playoffs. You're not going to get nearly as good of a number as you're getting now. And they're only going to get healthier when they get Ovechkin back. And they'll be that much more dangerous, And maybe this is almost a blessing in disguise for Ovechkin a little bit. Older player, get him off the ice for a little bit. Fresh legs here once he gets back on the ice, and then really, really grind hard here towards the playoffs. And I'm wondering if the Capitals might not just kind of keep him out as long as they're doing good. Prolong his absence a little bit. Let these guys grow a little bit more. Let's bring back Ovechkin in January, February. Fresh legs, and then they could be very, very dangerous at that point.
Oh, absolutely. You got to think, I couldn't agree more. And there was a lot of talk of that, saying, hey, maybe he'll be fresher or more fresh, later into the year.
Right.
That could really end up, paying some nice benefits.
Right, exactly.
So in the West, the Oilers plus 370, the Stars 4-1, Colorado 6-1, the Jets 7-1, the Canucks at 9-1, and Minnesota at 9-1. Your top 6 there. And notice that Vegas, leading their division, didn't make the top 6 of that. They're 9-1, and then the Kings are 15-1. I like Minnesota and LA right now, 9-1 and 15-1. Steve, I'm sure you may have better numbers on that, but I think in the West, those are the two teams that I would like to lean on right now. What do you make of the West?
Yeah, you're right. The numbers are all over the board. Some of your numbers are better, some are worse. It just depends who you like here. I just don't want to trust an Edmonton at a plus 370. I don't want to trust a Dallas at a plus 410. I'd rather just take them before the playoffs because you're going to get a similar number at that point. There's no reason to do it now when these teams could only get injured and lose momentum and be worse and maybe even get a better number down the road. So the only ones you can look at to me are teams like the Wild, teams like the Jets, teams like the Kings, like you said. I still wish I had that Winnipeg number at 23-1 that I grabbed earlier in the season that I have for an extended future. But 9-1, that number can still get better if they start to drop off a little bit more, where they're kind of hinting that's what they're actually kind of doing. It's shocking to me that Nashville is 21-1. Who in the world is taking Nashville right now after they're losing 7 games in a row at 21-1 to win the West?
Yeah, that would seem like an unwise pick right now, Steve.
I mean, Utah has a better chance than that, and they're 39-1.
Right. So that doesn't make much sense there.
Or even St. Louis is 70-1, if you want to go that route. But.
Yeah, exactly. All right, for the Cup odds anyway, we'll do that real quick. Florida 8-1, Edmonton 8-1, same as Carolina. The Dallas Stars 9-1, Rangers 10-1. I would stay away from that one right now. The Leafs 11-1, Colorado 12-1, and New Jersey 14-1. They round out the top 8 for the Cup, and then there you go, Steve. Yours might be a little better. 35-1 for the Washington Capitals if you play an all futures ticket with maybe like NBA and
right
the college basketball. You do one of those kind of parlays and you throw a Capitals 35-1. I mean, that is really only going to help your cause. So what do you like here number wise for the Cup?
34-1 is what I see. I was actually getting one better odds in the conference, and now I'm one less better in the Cup. So I'm not sure how to make sense of that with the books. But you're right, Dave. This is where you do a Capitals to win the Stanley Cup and a Boston Celtics to win the Eastern Conference, per se. You do a Capitals now and a Detroit Lions to win the Super Bowl. Something like that will give you an extraordinary payout at the end of the day. And that's what I'll do. I'm going to actually start to look at some futures this week with the NFL. I'll tie in some college basketball. I'll probably tie in the conference winners with hockey. Maybe even use this 34-1 for the Stanley Cup. The thing is with the Stanley, it's such a grind in hockey. I think you're just better off taking the conference odds instead of the Stanley Cup because it's just a whole nother round you got to win and what's already a long drawn out playoffs. And you've seen it, Dave, like 2 years ago. I mean, Florida fell flat on their face in the Stanley Cup because at that point they were done because of injuries, and they were just
they were so beat up.
They were worn and beaten into the ground by the time they got to the Stanley Cup. They weren't even competitive. So that's what the thing you got to worry about when you take the actual champion as opposed to a conference winner.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more, Steve. That's a good way to play it. But yes,
34-1 is very juicy for the Capitals right now, I would say.
Yeah,
yes.
they're out there. They are definitely out there. So I would definitely say take a look.
I'll tell you right now, you're also getting 30-1 on the Bruins. I wouldn't quite write them off at 30-1 either, to be honest.
I see that. Yeah, I see that too. And like I said, they're on a little bit of a resurgence. Maybe now things are with the coaching change up and the tree being shaken a little bit, maybe it's starting to settle down. and maybe they're kind of starting to find their way now.
Right.
All right, Steve, who do you have tonight for the penalty box?
All right, we'll go ahead and cue up the referees. Let's see here for the penalty box. I mean, we have a ton of candidates out there. I'll go ahead and throw the Kraken into the penalty box. That's a team we haven't thrown in there yet. They're a team who hasn't proven that they can sustainably win hockey games in masses here. And I think their season goes further south than it does north at the end of the day here. So go ahead and throw the Kraken with the Florida Panthers coming in there tomorrow night into Seattle at a late face-off. We'll throw the Kraken in the penalty box.
All right, and I'm going to go, even though they're playing Buffalo tonight, I'm going to go with losers of 5 in a row, the Detroit Red Wings. Just so underwhelming. There was hopes with the roster that they were trying to build that they would be in more of a contention spot. Just hasn't been that way for them. Up and down, just kind of sporadic, and now they're, free falling at 5 in a row. Who knows when that stops? Can they stop the bleeding against Buffalo tonight? I'm not so sure about that either. So, Steve, it's definitely going to be Detroit for me.
Okay.
And, all right, so with that being said, Steve, who is your goal scorer tonight?
Let's see. The goal scorer for me, I'm in the limited tough menu here. I'm going to go ahead and pick a Ranger because I think that's the obvious way to go. And I'll try to, you know what? Give me good old Riley Smith at plus 350. That's a nice number for him.
Oh, there you go. All right. I'm going to go kind of with a weird one here, Steve. I'm going to go with the Blackhawk. I'm going to go 10-1 with Alex Vlasic. If you've looked, they're not scoring much, but he's scored in their last 2 games. So he's at least bringing the effort. 10-1. Maybe, somebody who's warming up for the Blackhawks. I mean, somebody's got to. So give me 10-1 with Alex Vlasic.
Nice. I like it. If you parlay Vlasic and Riley Smith, you get 48-1 odds for both of those guys to score tonight.
I love that.
So there you go. All right. Good stuff, Dave.
Well, yeah, that's the end of the road for us. You got any program notes?
Yeah, you know what? We are going to do our regular show Sunday mornings, 7:00 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that is the Round Robin, our NFL wagering show. And we're actually going to have a new show on the network, Dave. We got my good friend Karen Doherty, the Sizzle is her nickname. She is going to do a fitness program on our network. How about that? So we're going to do our test.
Very nice.
We're going to do our test run on Wednesday, and then we'll probably air it, and then we'll start coming on and bringing guests on. I think Sizzle Fit. Her nickname's Sizzle. So Sizzle Fit will be the name of the program, and she's funny. She's hysterical. And there'll be a good show for really everyone. She has a very interesting story, Dave, that she'll share on the air. But she's really upfront about it. I mean, she is a Pilates instructor, certified fitness guru at this point. But her story is definitely a long one. I mean, she was brought up in foster care. She had a long battle with drugs when she was younger. And coming out of rehab, and a good success story, like a phoenix rising from the ashes. So we'll see what kind of positive momentum she can spur this channel along with her Sizzle Fit program. Airtime to be announced, but it looks like it'll be in the future airing live Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Oh, very nice, Steve. Very nice.
Yep.
All right. Do you have any plays you want to send us off with?
I'm gonna take. You know what? Just go ahead and give me the triple under. Give me all 3 unders tonight on the $10 parlay. The win $60.
New York and Anaheim.
All right.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for us. Deep End Broadcasting's coverage of the NHL. Another light slate tonight, but I think, we've kind of covered some information that we kind of needed to know anyway for the rest of the games. So for myself and Steve, good luck, and we'll see you next Monday.
Good luck, everybody.
What the puck is going on?